stuff is more crop.
Like the thing is, we could go for
It's already be like tough. Yeah. At least if we get more crop, it can be a
And that's what today is all about.
It's
Hear it all the way, then
It's also
figure out
like
what we can.
knitting, if it doesn't turn out, I can do forever, but I can at least do it. Sewing, you've already cut the things, so it's taking it apart is some pain.
use the face. I think you're going to be a flower region.
Oh, we just don't need it.
So, I mean,
You don't want to give it away because you made it, but also maybe you think nobody else wants it. So it's sitting in your closet forever.
Yeah.
Or you cut it up to become stuffing.
Yeah,
Kick off and then.
this is like my first, like a couple weeks ago, the first time I told somebody in the house, I'm never gonna wear this, and I don't like it, but I think somebody else who isn't looking at all of the flaws, like I said immediately. So I
I'm gonna use both of you.
We're gonna
say we're both here.
you use the microphone and just talk loudly.
You can just talk about it.
That works. I didn't bought
So, so welcome everybody. Thanks for coming here today to talk about the space and the future of the space here and some of the exciting stuff we're planning now that we've signed our letter of intent and we have our partners, our development partners here. And so we're moving into some exciting sort of brass tacks phase of this, which is pretty awesome. This is our first time to collaborate with the congregation recently, especially with our developer. And so it's a time for them to meet you and you to meet them and to talk about some of the hopes and dreams and to start into that planning phase. We will, as we progress along this, get into things like floor plans and stuff, not today, but we will get into that soon and we'll start to see what the reality around this is going to look like, which is exciting, scary and as well, so we have to recognize that, but also very exciting. I'm going to say, well, get Edward and Jordan to wait. There are developers, there's Edward and Jordan. They will come up shortly. I'd ask Pat if she could start some prayer.
Sure.
Because that's a good way to center ourselves as we begin this. And then we'll go from there. Yeah.
I hope you're going to use the mic.
Okay,
Because even
I
I
can.
thought I had good ears, but I
We will use the mic then. Yeah, we've got that. So
Yes,
it's a very easy.
Okay, how's that?
yes.
Perfect.
You're loud?
And just to let people know, we are recording, so the people that can't be here today can be part of this in some ways. Is that
Can
all
we
right?
bring the mic up though, so that it's not way back there?
It is possible it will start feeding back.
If it feeds
Just
back,
a heads up.
our sound people at the back will definitely deal with it.
Excellent.
Do you want me to go sit back there?
I think everybody will.
So now, don't trip on the cord.
That's as close as we got.
It's better.
Is that better? Okay.
All right. A couple of years ago, I was able to take a course called Appreciative Inquiry. And so instead of going into an inquiry time or a time of wonderings about, oh my gosh, I wish we had, oh, this is so sad we don't have enough. The whole idea of appreciative inquiry is to go, oh my goodness, look what we have to work with. So that's what I'm going to begin today's prayer with. Lord, this is such a blessing that we are here together, that we are a church community, and that what's important to us and to you is what we can do to serve our community. We ask today that as we ask those questions of curiosity or we wonder about possibilities, that you guide us into what will be the very best path. We ask all this in our Lord Jesus' name. Amen.
Thanks. So I'm going to get Edward and Jordan to come up. Is there anybody that has any questions? Any questions about what we're here for today? Edward and Jordan are going to explain most of it as we go. Any questions, though, before we sort of jump right into it that people are wondering about? Timelines. There's really answers to most of these things, but if there's any questions, it'd be fine before we start. Okay. If you do as we go along, don't hesitate to ask. Otherwise, I'm going to get Edward to come on up and introduce yourself and introduce Jordan and lead us through the next little bit of time together. Yes, we're going to move back slightly. And then, okay. There you go. Thank you.
Hi everyone, I'm Edward Archibald, the principal behind Good Life Group, and I have my local counterpart, Jordan Farber from Farber Real Estate Group, who's partnering with us on this project. He's based here in Winnipeg. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself and motivations and what my company is about and why we're here. And then we're going to get into a couple little exercises on hopes, fears, and dreams. and we'll kind of roll it out, and it'll be a little bit iterative as we go forward as questions and comments and thoughts come up. So I grew up on the West Coast in Victoria, started in construction as a framer when I was a teenager. Worked my way through the construction world from formwork carpentry, site superintendent, running tower cranes on the top of towers, until eventually moving into the office and becoming a project manager, and then moving into the development realm about 12 years ago. Worked for a couple large developers in the Lower Mainland in Vancouver. Went out on my own about 8 years ago, did several condo projects out in BC, and just was feeling empty. It was just building a condo, selling it, building a condo, selling it. My father passed away, and I kind of took a bit of a reset. I went through a divorce, and I ended up deciding I wanted to build rental housing and look at affordable housing options, because it's sorely needed. We've got a housing crisis everywhere in the world, but in Canada in particular, we've got it a rough situation and a lot of complications that come through the complexities of building and executing a project. About 3.5 years ago, I ended up in Regina, which is where I'm now based. And in that process started several market rental buildings with some affordable units. And then I got introduced to Re11, who had worked with Sean and Pat and Adam and St. Mary's in general to get us to the point where we're at today. 2 years ago, from that introduction, I ended up in my first church project in Regina, St. Matthew's Anglican Church with the Anglican Diocese of Capel. And we went through some visioning sessions. Politics has kind of slowed that one down because we were right in the middle of a municipal election, then provincial, then federal. We're good timing here. We've got lots of space, so we started that project, and we're working through the approval process with the City of Regina on that. We're partnered with you guys here in Winnipeg, and then we're also partnered with Collier United in Barrie, Ontario as well. The church, redeveloping church properties is kind of starting to become a bit of a niche of where I'm moving the business forward, because one of the biggest challenges as a developer is buying land and then taking a long time to get it approved, and that's the municipal timelines. It's not, as a developer, we want to move forward as quickly as possible, but there's red tape, there's zoning, there's communities that we've got to engage and work together with to get projects approved. So for me, partnering with churches becomes a unique opportunity where we don't have to buy the land, and we can work collaboratively together to get to a point where we can create a vision that has social enterprise that takes the baseline of what the church wants to see their property become, and every church has a different, well, the overarching mission is the same. Every church, every neighborhood has a different mission that they're working to execute and want to see moving forward in 50 years as time moves on, and 100 years and whatever else that might be. So that's kind of my why. I think there's a great opportunity to provide the affordable housing, the social housing, and then the market housing, which needs to be in there to help offset and afford us more opportunities in the funding and the financing of these projects. So today, we're going to put out 3 sheets on each table and some pens and some sticky notes. There's hopes, dreams, and fears. What I would like each table to do is spend 20, 30 minutes talking amongst yourselves or your own ideas, and on the sticky notes on each table, putting down whatever your hopes, dreams, or fears. Don't need names. I just want to take those papers away so that we can then look at that as we move forward in starting to create the design. So we haven't done much other than we can fit 2 buildings here potentially. And what today is about hearing what community organizations are important to you that are operating in this neighborhood or are operating in the church right now. What demographics in a housing situation are important. And I can give you an example in Regina. For the Anglican diocese, the church that we're redeveloping there was a heritage property, and it needed $10 million worth of work in the building. Heritage status was removed. There's no congregation there. So it was really just the church leadership. In that particular case, the church leadership in Regina, they had one of the last residential schools in operation in Canada. So partnering with a specific First Nation in Treaty 4 was incredibly important to them. Through that initial process, we went and approached that nation, and we're now partners with that nation on the project. And in listening to the nation, we said, well, what's important to you? And they wanted some component of Indigenous seniors housing and some component of Indigenous student housing. So those are the affordable units that are going in that building, along with the market rentals above, and then we have some social enterprise commercial space on the ground floor as an example of what it can be. So we're gonna distribute those pieces of paper at each table. Pat's gonna help me out with that. And a couple pens and some sticky notes.
I have more pens.
And we'll spend half an hour or so working through that, and then I'll float around the room and chat with you all, and we'll kind of evolve it from there.
Can we ask a question?
Yes.
What is the difference between dreams?
Dreams are like completely blue sky. Hopes are what you hope to see. So the dreams are just all clarified. So for the dreams page, it's just like throw the craziest ideas you might have out there. Hopes are what you want to see from what's here right now, continuing forward, but the dreams are meant to be your crazy ones.
Yeah, we're here, so I met you when you were coming in to talk to me.
Oh, yes.
Great.
No, dreams were completely like your crazy ones. Hopes are what's here right now.
No, I appreciate that. It's on that same stuff.
So hopes to continue that?
Many yes.
Thinking of what was mentioned as one of the fear, the reader fear.
Somebody who dreams and only hopes. Okay, so hopes is to keep young families.
Some of these are not stuff, right? I think it's all required.
I guess that is production.
Right on there and then.
So you could just write write them on the sticky notes. If you wish. I'll stop writing them.
It's okay. You can put it on. Not just that.
That's one of those things that we confiscated. Okay, it wasn't a problem. I still received it. All good.
So what is it we hope to be,
Not really big. An idea she had. There's no, and so then their kids get.
so is that a dream to have diverse housing or like different age groups? So we
Yeah, so that's like, yeah, the thought of it becoming another rental
I don't drive, so I don't have to call my taxi or my son or my grandson. I just walk across the street. So this is what it's nice to live in a community where there's young people, and older people. So it's important to me right now where I'm living because I'm not really the combination with everybody that's
right, yeah. I think, I don't know whether this is kind of the opposite of what you're saying, but in some ways I think it would be nice to have a place where people who are with the church could continue to live, like if there was a building here, people could then move into the place and then go to church and have that sense of community still within the building that they're living, you know?
So this
Community
is
space for the
Fraser.
Absolutely.
I took part in
The way,
an
but I was taking
amalgamation
work from what you said about some of the peers and stuff.
in
is we want community space, not
1977.
commercial space.
We
Like we're
amalgamated
building a hub.
two churches, Chalmers
There we want to have.
and Greenwood Place. This is exactly what you were saying. We were an elderly congregation, more 70-year-olds than any other decade.
Anyway, I'm just here.
Yeah, and judge.
I know, Judge. I'm Phil, sorry.
Because the senior citizen home, 7 stories tall and 80-some.
It was for,
And within the building, we built a church. A big space in the first floor. And the good thing about all of this is that you don't have any dissension between the two congregations. The same congregation that they were moving off to down Portage Avenue mostly.
And I don't know whether we can say this, but give priority to people who are in that church areas.
we got late.
That might be nice if there was a United Church here and people wanted to continue. You can do this by giving priority to all, give first dibs on this, because then you could also have part of the involvement within the church.
I'm gonna.
My job is to promote transit now, like, yeah, bike parking and stuff like rooftop is super interesting. Like they're already here, I'll take these drop off here, like, each of those things.
Sticky for everything that you can think of. Like, that's what I want to see when I take this back to whether it's party on
Just right outside that exit door.
rooftop gardens. That would be under local.
Rooftop garden for dreams.
Come on, you need to start thinking how it's used.
I just put rooftop garden for you to get a garden too.
New infields, they have their own.
But you could tell, okay, those are the houses that were built in the 2000s. You can see the houses that were built in the 1940s, the 1960s, 70s, 80s.
There's no judgment, it's all good.
Just that's
Yeah, it's coming.
How good we
I know.
engage. There's-
Yeah, but that's the thing. That's it. It's really seriously now. I think it's a great huge part.
So for dreams, I don't know, like besides that, maybe some type of green space. Yeah, another green space.
I mean, as far as like that would.
But yeah, anytime you're taking that, you're never going to make everyone happy, but it's all about how well, and the thing is too, when the community also wants to call it cycle, right, before we put any people were informed. There were all these ideas out there that people care about station applications, but having inviting looking at those, it helps to still be. Yeah.
That's a dream. Parking magically solves itself.
So when, we just have to make sure.
There is parking.
You're the one who started this.
You already got it fast.
It is. It's got it done. Theoretically, that part of it. That's part of what we need to do. Shows you how.
Yeah, like for, that's people to live here. I think it was
I think this year probably going to
We can do under that parking lot. When you go down one level, the cost
for dreams. I like to have a very vibrant, if it's the first floor, but a place where people come to, for example, like a cafe, where we sell different things, and then toy people.
the ones that can make you look
might have commercial parking up above it. You don't see it because of the facade.
two companies.
Social enterprise cafe, the other
Maybe,
is.
yeah. There, okay, there we go.
It's got some.
Because like there's one down the street that like, I wouldn't want to take away their business, but if there was like more dessert places, you know, like.
Parking is a solvable problem.
Just like back to buy cars, and things like Mary's different dessert places, you know, and there's a.
But under but to have a big the reality of where we are,
Maybe it means it's like a coffee shop, right?
we're not going to use Springs Church.
This building and the church. Pretty far,
Is that hard?
Not if you're doing
Right, yeah. Although I think each floor has a purpose. And they can all interact. Oh,
Yeah.
it could be both. It can be. It's got to be.
segregating homes like that to school, there's like palliative care type of thing versus than other tools that they want to use.
We can build a new one. That might be a dream. There is more. We can make this bigger. There's a lot around that. That's what
We have to invest in it. We have to invest in
facing this. But business are
So great, I that's what the committee needs to reinforce it, just make it bigger. I'm too afraid of losing the sanctuary. And I'm very sad that I fear losing the sanctuary. I think it's a beautiful space that I don't remain where the church where the pews are.
Well, there's some really exciting. I mean, that's a dream. Is there ways of getting knowledge? There are opportunities for that. That's certainly.
I put some of that in there.
Yeah, with,
Space is accessible, inclusive, functional, space is a sanctuary, but also has
I'm trying to look for other fears.
do we have
We're off the committee. I mean, off the
That is the big
We're just a great, yeah, we are.
That's not
Or send it back to the mediator. No, I think, yeah, they are, I would say they're going to feel on both sides.
like there is
It is their fault, but it isn't here, and it is gonna happen.
any footage.
parking,
That doesn't
or is that just like kids? So is there a which
yeah, we can definitely.
The church can also schedule designation to be part of the business requesting to find out how this would work.
It all part and that's how we're, once we figure out what we need exactly.
it still might be there.
remember that phrase, Safeway? What is a Safeway?
Wait, actually,
Same building.
when was that? 60s.
Was childcare. What do you got right now? Building the space, not necessarily outfitting the space.
It's like Gretchen.
Whatever it is, they request that. Various ways we can. Yeah, absolutely. Kind of yeah. So this is like everyone has there's been the individual sessions in church. This is my
Fears are, there's a real fear of
Then we're gonna go
infill.
away and start drawing
Fear of housing. So if there's one house on the lot, it gets torn down to two houses. So there's
a series of boards explaining how we started, where we started, so all the consultation petitions to the faith community, and the process of selecting developers, and then here we are, here's our initial plans. And same thing with sticky notes, which is one of your dream community partners. And then we go away and take that, make some notes, and then
This is my policy, and it's good. This church does do some French. There is some French territory.
Oh, you were there, oh, yeah, you were there when we had this conversation.
I actually went into the city of Richard to see if I could find out. And it does look like that part was bigger, so I don't know if that's part of it. But I didn't find it.
So the old cable farm line on Wallace Corner was called the
what's going to end
and I was trying to figure out why the whole thing had this like
versus
kosher part of it from
I was thinking around. So you're talking about parking lot.
well, like Park Theater.
I also want to I think if you guys.
The sled is the one really like there.
Yeah.
I mean, they created the bear,
Oh, you're still no.
The stairs are
engage the community. And then
it's more work.
Yeah.
bowling alley.
But that's,
Well, I mean, with the same church.
I have,
And they are afraid, they will not have a space.
Yeah.
So for fears, no, we have rental groups that come in and rent our space. And when it's no longer here, they are afraid they will not have a space, so there's a lot of self-help groups.
It was quite close.
Or fear of losing space. Yeah.
We're in the middle.
But Montessori, but we have about 4 self-help groups come in, so almost every day we have a self-help group. So they are afraid of losing their space. So today, this afternoon, there's one class in the meeting room, there was one this morning, and tomorrow night there's one after church. So almost every day there is a self-help group. It is next.
no, there's definitely not, and I think that's where it's a good project.
I don't see the community just giving out spaces because they're pretty yes. For the most part, most for some. Talking to Pat Adams. So for the groups, we probably need like a small, a medium, and a large space. Not even for us, but also like the groups that we rent to. Some of them use the 40 groups, so that's a small space of up to 10. And the junction is up to say 30.
Something to be said for that.
So those are the types of spaces that we usually use in the church. We also have one that's once a month, so they use the flower groups, we use as a space to be able to set up their table and do their projects. They would love to come with us if they are. Actually, yeah. Yeah, like we don't have a commercial kitchen like I have in my commercial kitchen, but like soup varies. Yeah, so do we want a commercial kitchen?
I like this space.
Yeah, there is space.
Yeah, but then it becomes still a flexible space, so it's natural.
Yeah, like yeah, that's why we can't wait. Inspectors have come to the kitchen because it is, we have to regularly sell their goods, otherwise we'd have to bring it. Soup fairies come in once a month. They don't even sell their soup, they just give you that's what so if we want a kitchen, when do we want it? We probably want a kitchen as a church, but yeah. But do we want another?
A notification.
It's right in between Center Street and
We would have another avenue.
Yeah, I think so.
So I think a dream would be, I don't know, so to definitely have a kitchen where the church could use, you know, we would probably still want to have events like spaghetti dinner last night.
That's not what I was thinking. That's what I'm gonna say.
I'd say, I'd say
The other side recommendations from the whole council for the final.
I'd say
And we do have programs ensuring everyone who supports the project is at council chamber. I just saw pictures and so
I don't know if we were in commercial kitchen, like, I have got a lot of like to I don't know if that's what we want to do, like, we definitely want a kitchen.
There's lots of people that use the if we build out
I personally don't know if we want to do a commercial.
feel to it, then a gym this would be a place that works.
Yeah, I think it
Like they
There's all these things like use the various means of
yeah, we just go to different.
311 was the first project.
so they've got the first
Graham Reverend St. Who runs Church St. Jack's on St. Catherine. And so it's a heritage church. So we're actually not a large towns, but trying to find ways to utilize that space. And so they have the sanctuary component roped off this space, but there's a mini Cirque du Soleil that happens in the church. You have to pay tickets to go in and see it. There's acrobatic stuff on the rafters and everything else. So that's taking a church space now instead of just on Sunday. It's being throughout the performing arts and another church on Saturday. And so finding ways to also create other revenue sources to support the church operation as well. So whatever that worship space looks like in the new building, having the ability to have it for more than just worship, for the arts community, for plays for other things, so that it's not just
That better be coming over. That better be coming over. Yeah, it had houses for the space.
so
You had to be certain so that it washed dishes for the food bags.
there's a goal in redevelopment. Faith properties from what I've heard from all the conversations. The congregations have dwindled with age and evolution of society, and at some point, I'm sure there'll be an uptick again, but finding ways to create for spaces so they're resilient for the future. So they want to take revenue flows. Collier, United, and Barry, when they built their property, they had a 4-level hall with office. I don't know, but when they built
When I
it,
that's
when I went
allowed
to do a presentation, they voted to move forward. There was 35 people. And they're in a heritage building in the main church, but like that swing down. So part of the conversation there is they have a heritage sanctuary and how do we create, it's not great from an acoustic standpoint for performing arts, so how do we create that space?
Just a member of an extension of the church.
I think we're going to use the space
Parking, traffic.
maybe other times.
I'll be perfectly fine. So, and so the narrative around what type of housing needs to be carefully curated so that people don't get false expectations. And in a lot of these projects, it's not
It's not an ordinary space. When you walk in, you can feel
second and third stage
And maybe basic terms, like more than one person, just because there's probably caters to small and large. Yeah.
finding housing for things like
Like the
that.
super space, not just a place.
Changes are. This is a good idea for somebody else. I don't want to.
Of course,
space, diverse space on.
Well, yeah, it's selling this to people like Dr. Behind, it's the neighbors next door that are watching the stuff. That's not how I envision the neighborhood. I was thinking of growing up, and it's that those guys got so we have enough good.
Okay, so I'm sure there's still some conversations going on and continue, but what I'd like to do is get each table to read one hope, one fear, one dream. So if you want to have 5 minutes to kind of talk amongst yourselves what you're going to share with the group, and then we'll do that, and then honestly it'll be a wrap for today. I'll take this away and start drafting up some stuff. Once we do the each table thing, I can come back up, and if there's any burning questions, I'll be happy to answer those. So give it 5-10 minutes to figure out what hope, what fear, what dream, and then we'll go from there.
No one else.
Space to have a person for us. It could be anybody, but just have a consistent person. Because a space for a person. And it keeps things together for the church. Because there's so many things that can like disappear because of something coming to one person or like a space. And that creates like jobs. That's weddings. It's day-to-day. It's like everything that happens in the church. Maybe, yeah. Gatherings at church. Go first. Space for what you said, so late. I know. I interjected with my thoughts.
Well, it's part of why.
From the party.
You know, each
There's a lot of hopes for the overlapping dreams. So what dreams are we going to what dreams do you
No, anybody. That's part of what we're doing.
So garden is the place.
No, I think the character churches come from the colonies, from
What about parks? We have family.
I'm guessing some. Actually, when
Yeah. When I think about that, I'm more than there's so much
It's hard to have you have it because it's community building because it's significant that
in terms of
the French community.
my biggest
She was so excited.
we have more space by we don't do
Yeah.
so it's all belongs to a large organization
Don't have the impact we could.
financed mostly by the government.
There's two sets here. Basically, we're going to open it. And I'm just going to show you. Take the church and the rentals. The city zone issues.
What's a home?
Yeah, we're almost ready.
Perfectly preserved 1974.
I think it could be big because the church is here and then there's been new buildings right beside of St. Mary, it's like apartment blocks. The last thing we probably ever expected was to have just change.
There's a little bit. It goes across here too.
We shop with different neighbors. I think a lot of people would be very upset by quitting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this is interesting. We're surrounded by mostly.
But it did, and right across the board.
It's not really residential.
So there's lawyers right beside, so we're 613, so 613 lawyers, and then it's 617 is the duplex. No, I just saw that.
Well, there is a little bit about the community. How are I think that part of this is there is a lot of churches are in their this to me feels like skyping at home to signature up and be around. Put it over top of the top. Yeah, I said that's
This is a
I can live forever.
Julian was right. That's right.
So there was a whole which one it was, but there's some community
church has that in this.
No,
They don't stacking up what's in
That's what I'm sure about bringing it to our church, because I thought this might be the first church. Although, there used to be a big sports keep our young families.
still here. Due to be
Keep our youth. Kids program.
So is it like a building community?
Okay, who's ready? Everyone Everyone ready?
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we, we'll just get one person from each table to come up. So why don't we start with Pat's table?
You're gonna be in three, because the three of us, because we'll just say it loudly. Okay, is that okay? Or do
You
you
gotta
want
go
me
to the
use
mic, I'll go to the mic, the recording.
Okay, because we each took on responsibility. But actually, we counted on Ray. He's the one that sorted stuff. All right, so under dreams, what is our biggest dream is that our church grows, not so much thinking about numbers, but that the community really connects with what we're doing and they can see what we're doing and they become part of our church community, even if that doesn't mean they attend our services. They're just part of our community here at the church. That's our dream.
I came specifically today to talk about food banks, so that's of course on our hopes that we get a space large enough to run the food bank and that whatever we do on a main floor space. No stairs to go up and down, that sort of thing. And there was some really other good hopes on here, regarding seniors housing, not seniors housing, but to have seniors programming, that sort of thing. So I won't say any more, but I specifically was here for the food bank.
All right, and our fears, I guess if we could sum it up, is we throw a party and nobody shows up. We throw a party for the congregation at church, we lose our congregants. We build apartments, we have trouble selling them. Or renting them, sorry.
Sean's table.
Okay, we're going to start with our fears. We are afraid of upsetting our neighbors. There's a lot of resistance to infill in the neighborhood, and so neighbors could be very upset and not want to see a development here. Our dreams are that we have a space that is spiritual and not a secular one, so you don't feel like you're walking into a community center. It's still church, it's still religious, we'd like to have that, but not just say United Church. If you're Muslim, we want to have you feel comfortable. If you're United Church, we'd like you to feel comfortable in a more spiritual setting. And our hopes are that we're still able to keep young families, youth group, and children's programming as we move forward.
We'll just move around the room. So the table with these ladies here, if you wanna, one of you or two, you wanna come up and read yours.
Like Joan, we hope that the food bank will continue to operate. One of our fears was, will St. Mary's Road United Church still be visible in 10 years? How will the church stay open during construction? And the dream was, we want to be welcoming to a seniors community with activities and support to seniors, for example, 55 plus, a meeting space for people to join for coffee and activities, and lots of activities in the daytime and accessible.
I wrote something at home and you're going to have to listen to it. It's very short. I won't say who I am, but I've been affiliated with St. Mary's Road since 1968. Left for a while to go to the church in Fort Garry, but it closed, so I came back because mainly my sister was here. In the recent years, the community club governance has realized that not only sports, but senior programming is desirable and there is a market. City grants to community clubs are showing that trend. There is a new provincial seniors advocate and senior act as of November the 1st, 2025. I have been active in the Pembina Active Living 55 plus organization in Southwest Winnipeg, which began 15 to 16 years ago, a great part of my life. Pre-pandemic, there was the idea of a 55 plus organization here. They were going to call it 613. Related to MASC, which is Manitoba Association of Seniors, Connie Newman, the executive director. That pandemic did us in with that, and it's been taken off the list for the Manitoba seniors. I know that a community space is part of the redevelopment plans. Please consider the option of a seniors group, 55 plus or otherwise, operating permanently in the new St. Mary's Road space. Everyone here may be glad of it someday. I know I'm already there, and I'm glad of Penn Active Living. So 55 plus is if you do that, you know, it takes in Indigenous, it takes in LGBTQ, it takes in cultural diversity, and the way you welcome everybody is by the program you set up, which we are doing at Penn Active Living.
Thank you. The table that Adam was at, if you want to come on up.
Our hope is that we can maintain the ethos of our congregation throughout the redevelopment process. Its core values, its outreach, and its community service, the heart and soul of the congregation. Our fear is that we won't, throughout the development process, we won't wind up with the impact on the community that we're hoping for. Our dream is that St. Mary's Road United Church will continue and will grow during this time and after, and still be here for our grandchildren.
Last but not least.
So our hopes are for environmental sustainability, things like rooftop gardens, composting, bike parking, partnering with local environmental organizations. Our fear that was not mentioned by anyone else is that we'll be destroying chimney swift habitat. And dreams, which people said, but that this becomes a true community hub combining the church, neighbors, tenants, and any groups in the space.
I hate to spoil in your parade, but we had chimney swift.
Right, but you didn't say it all loud. We had other things down too.
So I will go over kind of what our process is moving forward next, and then I'll open it up for any questions that any of you might have for me as we move forward, knowing that everything that's on your hopes and dreams is going to be taken into account, but if there's that burning question that I wasn't able to get when I was moving around, then I'm happy to answer that. So this today is kind of the start of our stakeholder engagement. I know the team has had lots of engagement with the congregation over the last while to get us here, but the big part of today is listening and hearing all of you in the way that I take it in, so that I can then take it back to my design team and we can start doodling and drawing up some concepts and ideas along the way. We'll also, through Sean and Adam and Pat, we have a long list of various stakeholders that have been part of the church for quite some time, such as the food bank, Montessori, and other organizations. So we'll be reaching out to them to start to hear what some of their hopes and dreams are in respect to what new spaces in the building could look like, and how we incorporate those. Food bank with no steps, I'm sure is going to be one of those, and having more design specific space for those uses instead of shoehorning them into places, because that's what we have right now. That stakeholder engagement process kind of from now will run us through to early in the new year. We'll have some concepts that we'll have and we'll share, And then at that point, we'll open it up to the broader community. In that stakeholder engagement component, I should highlight that we will be talking to individual groups, to the local MLA, MP, to the city, to other nonprofits and neighborhood groups. And then once we kind of have a concept that is financially feasible from where we're getting the money, federal government, provincial government, municipal government, private equity, fundraising, whatever that might be, we'll have a community open house that will invite the entire community to come in here. We'll have boards around the room with here's where St. Mary's started, here's how we got to picking who our partner is, here's the various engagement that we've had, here's our initial design concepts, and then community, please give us your fears, hopes, and dreams on a couple easels. We'll take those, that feedback away. We'll make tweaks to the design, to the project, to the programming as we're able to. The important part is ensuring that the community feels like they've been listened to and actually listened to and not just paid lip service to it. And at that point, which would be in the spring of 26, we will submit the application to the city of Winnipeg, and then at that point it runs its way through the city of Winnipeg, and hopefully it's not an elongated process, but it's government, so you never know. That's going to be kind of the process to get to the point where we're in construction. The construction component of it will, depending on exactly what we do, it will be phased so that the worship space is maintained while phase 1 is underway. And there'll be a lot of technical stuff that the engineers will end up having to figure out that I could talk about on a high level, but how exactly they figure that out is way above my pay grade. But they'll figure out how we go underground with some parking adjacent to the existing sanctuary, and then we'll get in, we'll build phase 1, and then the new sanctuary space will be in phase 1, and it will move over, and then we'll start phase 2. Obviously there's a lot of great architectural features in here from wood and brick and whatnot, so during the demolition process of each phase, we'll look at what we can pull out, even in the, from an environmental standpoint, we'll pull wood out that is going to be recycled, the brick will go where the brick goes, and the general refuse will go where the general refuse goes, but it'll be pulled apart by the machines in that manner, but we'll look at the various pieces of what we can reuse. These gorgeous glulam wood beams, well, we're not going to reuse them exactly in the new building. They can end up becoming architectural features and other components that we can bring into the lobby, the community space, the sanctuary space, whatever that may be, and we'll do the same with the sanctuary space when we're at that stage. From there, kind of that's where we're at right now and kind of the process. I'll open it up to any questions.
Question. Are you at any point in saying which building would be done first, or this one? So we would be over in the other?
Oh, sorry, no, this one no, it would be the other one first.
The other one?
Yeah.
First. One on St.
Yeah.
Would we have two addresses that way? Would we have, like, say, the apartment building on that side would have a St. Mary's address and this one St. Mary's?
That will be completely up to the city of Winnipeg, but I would likely suspect so, yes. From a first responding standpoint, that would be if there was a fire in one building, they would want to go to the front of that building where all the apparatuses would be for them.
It's not ours, it belongs to the owners of the development. So how would we dig up the parking lot to put it on the ground parking lot?
There'll be shoring that goes along wherever the property line is, so that will end up being a component that the geotechnical engineers will provide us a direction on how we need to shore that in order to dig down.
Sorry,
I just wanted to use the mic. When we talk about affordable housing, what's the classic mix between percentage-wise in terms of what percentage is affordable housing versus the full rental? Is there a classic formula that we aim for?
There is what Manitoba Housing defines, there's what CMHC defines, there's what the City of Winnipeg defines. There is no classic formula, so to speak. What we'll look at doing is what type of affordable housing we're putting in. There may be some affordable housing that is more tied to social assistance rates, and you're talking about single room type hotel size rooms. So if you're doing a single occupancy room that's the size of a hotel room and you're charging social assistance rates, it ends up working out. You can't charge social assistance rates on a 900 square foot 2-bedroom, but you can on a 300 square foot studio. So it will really depend on who our nonprofit housing partners are, who we look at, the operators and what demographics that we're ending up looking at, whether it be, there's a plethora, but just off the top of my head, there's women fleeing and children fleeing domestic violence. There is teens aging out of the foster care system. There are new Canadians. There's a whole bunch of different ways. Generally speaking, when we're talking about affordability, it's 20 to 30% of market. And CMHC defines that based on the median income. So the metrics are all over the place, and as we kind of get into what we're putting in here, those dynamics will be shared in detail with the congregation, so everyone has an understanding.
I just want to come down on the housing, because this is going to be an important thing for us to talk about. So regarding the housing and where we get to with the housing, at some point, some of this needs to make money for us. And so if we need to be careful about if everything is nonprofit and social good, which it all should be, but if all of it is below market subsidized, who is doing that subsidizing? Because if it's us, we don't have money to do that. And so what of this is going to be part of, what portions of it are going to be social below rent maybe, whatever it's going to be, whatever, but how do we make sure that there is revenue coming in, because we want to use that money as a congregation to do other social good, like continue the food bank and continue the community space. So there's going to be a balance in where profit is made versus where we are using that profit to impact the social good. And so it'll be an interesting part of the conversation as we go. Is that a fair thing to say? Yeah.
Very fair thing to say. Yeah, and that's why the answer that I just gave you is we don't know what we're putting in here yet. And there are ways to create deeply affordable housing and still be able to make money on the market side of the equation to fund programming and other things as we move forward. So it's a big part of getting creative, looking at the various pots of money where we can pull to cover the construction costs of those components out, which is where Jordan's really good at. And then looking at ensuring the revenue that's coming in from those affordable units covers the operating costs so it doesn't have to get fed. And being strategic about the size of units and how the units are designed is a critical piece in kind of putting that puzzle together.
I guess it's two parts, and maybe they're more connected than I am thinking. But one is there thought of accruing more land with some of the neighbors because of the setup of the parcel here. I'm thinking especially around us. Anyway, that makes sense. But whether or not, if that is done, because our congregation doesn't have the means to buy out any other property, does that change the relationship in the as in that third entity, and what that relationship will be. Just wondering about that dynamic and how those anxieties might be allayed.
Yes, that has been a question since day one, and that will be part of the stakeholder engagement component to understand who and if people are willing to sell and for what. Sometimes when there's a larger development coming, some people want an exorbitant sum of money for their property that just doesn't work in a pro forma. So that has been, from day one, something that Sean and Pat and Adam and the team have brought up, and we'll explore it. From changing overall dynamics, it doesn't really change. The church wouldn't have to be acquiring that land. We would be acquiring that land and putting it into the development, and it would just, from a financial standpoint, it's incrementally, what is this land worth, what is that land worth, and it becomes a mathematical equation, but it doesn't really change the overall dynamics of anything on a broad scale.
Tell me you build green buildings.
That wasn't even a question.
Well, you told me to tell you, but yes. So yes, I have a market apartment building under construction right now that is 6 stories and built out of insulated concrete forms. The entire structure going up, which just the ICF forms over a traditional concrete and glass tower or wood frame equate to about 15 to 20% better than the National Energy Code. A typical wood frame building has 2 to 3 air changes going through it a minute. An ICF building has 0.3 to 0.5 air changes. So you're not having a heat loss out of an ICF building. You're insulated on both sides from construction costs and even in construction start, and even in the construction process. When you're building through the winter, you're not losing as much heat out through the uninsulated wood frame, or glazing for that matter, if it's got a whole bunch of glass and concrete going up. Typically, we're looking at either double pane glazing with specialty gases put in it, or triple pane wherever. And then in a lot of our buildings, we have a Shark wastewater heat recovery system, which reduces the energy consumption of the building from a heating standpoint by up to 70% by capturing the energy and the heat in everything from your dishwater to your shower to your laundry, storing it and then redistributing it through the heating system with a hot water heating system. That system is based out of Port Coquitlam. I put the first one in a condo building in 2011, so it's a tried and true system that is now part of the City of Vancouver's district energy system, the City of Denver's district energy system, and the ZB project in Ottawa, which is a large multi-phase project. And if you pair that with geothermal and the ICF, and I'm not saying we're doing geothermal just so we're clear, because there's a lot of studies that need to be done on that, and I know that's on one of the sheets. But it's very easy to get to net zero without spending an exorbitant amount of money. And so one of the things that I look at when we're building is how do we make it as energy efficient as we can without costing us too much money that then doesn't become markedly viable.
And CMHC requires it.
And CMHC requires it too.
So I know that you said you want to go to the city in the springtime, and I'm just wondering, in your experience dealing with them, and what would be the earliest that
construction would start on the sanctuary. And I asked partly because somebody wants to get married there in July.
You can book it in July. Every municipality is different. I'll generally say somewhere between 12 and 18 months from when we apply would we be starting construction.
Question, can I just do it from here?
Yeah.
The project in Regina that is partnered with the church and the Indigenous, how is that administered? Do they have run by a board of equal, or maybe the church has an extra seat on the board, or how does that work?
So that project's completely different from this project in that the Anglican diocese no longer was using the space for worship, and their number one element to the partnership was called Action 92 in terms of truth and reconciliation. And so in that case, they have a 1% stake in the building, and they have a seat on the board, but it is majority Indigenous, and then we're the minority, 50.5 and 48.5, and then 1% for the Anglican Church, so they have a voice. Obviously, this situation or this partnership is a lot different, so can't really compare the two, but yeah. Any other questions? Go, yeah.
So, I'm just gonna yell. So then, if you had any idea about what the percentages might look like in our case, like, are you able to comment on that now, or?
I have no idea. We have not started any of that kind of component because a big part of what we need to see is what's going on the ground floor and what needs to be subsidized in that respect. And then from there, what the land value is, what we can then put in from an affordable. But that being said, we're gonna look at somewhere between 20 and 30% of the units because at the end of the day, that's what CMHC requires. What level of affordability those units are at? Is it at CMHC rates? Is it at City of Winnipeg rates? Is it at Province of Manitoba rates? Is it at, well, for that part we don't know, but the target would be to meet the funding programs, 20 to 30% deemed affordable. What level that is, I don't know and won't know until we're getting closer to putting things into the city and we've kind of run the metrics and the performance.
I don't think that was your question, was it?
It wasn't really, but it was an answer. No, I mean, what percentage, would we retain?
What percentage would you retain?
Yeah.
That still is going to be dependent on how the whole overall structure is and what goes to what.
Okay.
As we develop other partners that might be part of it, right?
Correct. Yeah.
There might be, like you were saying, the Indigenous group with the project in Regina. So maybe there might be another group that is partnering with us. We don't know any of that yet.
So as an example with the Indigenous partnership, if an Indigenous organization has 51% ownership of a building, just because you have 51% ownership of a building doesn't mean you're getting 51% of the profits or 51% of the control. It just means you have 51% ownership. So if there's an Indigenous partner that is part of this project and they're at 51%, that then opens other doors for funding from Indigenous Services Canada, from CMHC, from Infrastructure Canada, from the First Nations Bank. There's a bunch of different other avenues there. And in the case of Regina, that's why it's set up that way. So we have different funding avenues because also in Saskatchewan, we have a government that does not believe in providing any money for affordable housing. So.
And I don't think, I talked to the priest that they weren't particularly needing to have an ongoing governance. They were happy with how the model was unfolding, was my understanding what she said.
That would be correct. And we now have 3 different church partnerships and every single one is different. depending on the needs, the requirements, the size, and what we're doing. And that kind of, the final ownership structure comes out through the next, 4 to 6 months as we figure out who's at the table.
And I'll add to that maybe.
Yeah.
I think part of this, there is by definition a loss of control. The United Church owns this building, we can do whatever we want, it's our clubhouse, we can do it. We are changing that, and so we are going to have partners in here, and we're going to have other investors in here, and so we are going to, by definition, lose some of that control. And so that's why it's so important that we have value-aligned partners, value-aligned developers that we found that are going to be with us in this, and that is going to be a big part of taking this forward. But there is going to be shared ownership and shared responsibility, and so that is something we have to make sure we understand.
Just on that, shared versus squeezed out. That's what your fears, the fears that are going to come out in the congregation.
I wrote that fear down. Yes, that is a fear. So yes, that is a fear. The squeezed out, we don't get it to be how we want it to be, that things happen here that we don't want to have happen. And so how do we make sure that what we set up, that organization, that joint venture that's going to hold this, that we will be a part of but not a controller of, we have to let go of some of that and make sure that is set up appropriately, that those values can continue.
Yeah, but it's also fair to say we totally lose control if we don't do anything.
Yeah, at some point we would have to sell the whole thing with nothing.
Yep.
And that's where what Re11 has done with your St. Mary's team, and why we're here is the value aligned. We don't want to, this is your space. That's why we're here right now talking and listening is, yes, the overall property, there will be not as much control, but there will be a firm seat at the table, and ensuring that as we develop this plan over the next few months, right now there's complete control over what we do. And at the end of the day, if the team and the church don't feel aligned with what we're coming to the table with, there's still that control. And then we get into the next phase where, yes, control is reduced, but there's still an active management seat at the table of what's going on. And from a standpoint of all the agreements, you can't get squeezed out completely. That's not part of what this is about. This is about creating a legacy for St. Mary's, so as Sean and Adam said, it doesn't have to get sold and then it's gone forever.
Do you have a list of who those potential partners would be and who you may add in the future or which you may remove in the future?
Sean and Adam and Pat have shared some lists of stakeholders that have been part of it so far, and we may look at adding or reconfiguring how some of those partnerships are moving forward. But I think the one thing I've heard loud and clear is the food bank and the Montessori need to be part of whatever moves forward. And then finding how, I was having a conversation with one of the tables, finding some of the other smaller groups that are in here and how we could incorporate that moving forward. I was sharing a story. Re11, one of the first projects they did in Montreal was a historic Anglican church on St. Catherine's, downtown Montreal. And the worship space, the sanctuary is roped off, and then during the week there's a mini Cirque du Soleil with acrobats, which is obviously a big thing in Montreal, that are swinging from the rafters of this 150-year-old church. So finding ways to make that space multi-use that then allows future. So if there's performing arts, if there's concerts, and I understand there's been some of that that's been utilized here. So finding all those pieces and how we incorporate that into the design.
So to confirm, do you have a list or you don't have a list?
We do have a list that Sean and Adam have shared and Pat have shared with us.
There's people we've started to explore with, but not, no one's bought in, right? And so there will have to be that sort of stage. But we want other partners. We think there's lots we can do with this, but we don't know what that entirely looks like yet. It's going to get down to brass tacks. We're going to say, okay, do you want in? What does that mean to be in? Yeah, we're starting to get to that now.
I was just going to add too, this is just my own thinking about Montessori, and I think Montessori offers great programming for kids. But I think if we were going to have rental spaces, perhaps with people needing full-time daycare, we might want to swing over to full-time daycare, because Montessori right now relies on somebody having someone be able to drop a child off and then pick them up at the end of the morning. It also relies on that family having funds to be able to pay for Montessori. So I'm not trying to say Montessori is not good. Don't get me wrong, but as we think down the road, perhaps a food bank is a must in my mind. Some sort of daycare is more of a must, but that's just my mind.
And there could be potentially both too.
I think instead of labeling it Montessori, because Montessori is basically a brand name, okay?
Yeah.
I would say when I refer to it, childcare, whether that is a Montessori program, and you know, right now their structure is their structure, but there are other Montessori families. Like for example, my grandchild gets dropped off at 7:30 in the morning and picked up at 4:30, and it's there all day. And it is a Montessori school, but there are other options. So it's not necessarily. I think the broader perspective would be child care.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Any other questions?
Just a quick observation is that I was very impressed that Edward wanted to come and meet with us first. That's a really good sign for going forward. He's got kind of a weird kind of hippie feel to him, but he also knows what he's doing. So it's interesting to me. I'm just also making that observation.
West Coast.
I was going to say, when I got my back turned, are you related to Josh Morrissey? Because your voice sounds exactly like Josh Morrissey.
So we'll be meeting more, and keep in touch with the space group, anything else that emerges. Obviously, when we're talking, it's really about relationship building today, and Edward getting a bit of a sense as for what we're on about. And I think you're probably experiencing a very progressive community that wants to be bold with some feel for tradition, I think, but also to be warm and welcoming to what goes forward. So I'm pretty pumped. Pumped about something we don't even know what it is, but we're going to do it together, and so I'm pretty keen about that.
Yeah, this is a collaboration. This isn't I'm the developer and here's what we're doing. That's why we're here today. This is a collaboration.
So thanks everybody for coming. Does anybody know what we need to do now to get ready for tomorrow? Should we put the chairs up for tomorrow? Does Kathy know that?
Do you want the tables up in the cafe, or what's going to happen at church tomorrow?
Well, how dirty are the floors?
They look pretty good when they came in. I don't like when they came in.
Okay, Lily's going to lick the floors and find it.
Chuck, for normal.
We know for sure after service, we want the chairs.
Chuck says we set up for
Okay, we've had an executive decision. The table goes away, and we can, if people want to set the chairs up, we can do that. Otherwise, we'll set it up in the morning. Thanks everybody for coming.
Yeah, thank you for coming. So, sorry about the Josh. It sounded like we're going to leave it for tomorrow. Just get more structure.